to honor the 76th birth anniversary of former Speaker of the Lok Sabha, late Purno A Sangma, on the 1st of September 2023, the Northeastern University Tura Campus and the P A Sangma Foundation at Tura had organized the 7th P A Sangma Memorial Lecture at the District Auditorium in Tura, which was moderated by renowned journalist and editor-in-chief of the print, Shekhar Gupta. Speaking during the event, Chief Minister Conrad K. Sangma stated that his late father, Purno A Sangma, will always be known as a leader who put his people first. This was the guiding principle that influenced all of his decisions, and through these principles, he influenced his children to join politics, added the Meghalaya Chief Minister. He further said that his late father is more than the infrastructures built in his name, as his way of life, his ethics and values will forever immortalize his memory in the hearts of people, and as a pioneer in many things, his life struggle is a story of hope and inspiration.
So he told me, the problem with us is that we don't understand the problem. So I said, what does that mean? He said, the problem is we don't know the problem. And it took me some time to grasp that. And today, being Chief Minister, I can tell you it may be one of the most important advices anyone could give anyone. So a simple example of a great, value or suggestion that he had taught us. That problem is we don't understand the problem. I remember once he told me about decision making. He told me decision making is one part of the process. The second part, which is equally important, is how you implement the decision and when you implement the decision. So taking a decision is one part, but how you implement it and when you implement it is equally important. And one doesn't realize it till you actually go through it, that it's so true. You may want to do something that's going to be very important for, say, some community. But then you shouldn't do it without taking the other communities into confidence. So how you do it? By taking people into confidence, by creating a consensus, by making people understand. When do you do it? You do it when you realize that, yes, you are getting everybody on board and you have more or less a consensus and you can actually go through with the decision that you take. Small advices given by late P A Sangma, which, as I said, sounded like a lecture to me when I was 19 years old, 20 years old, 21 years old. But today, I look back and I write down those 10, 15, 20 things that I could remember that he told me. And these two just strike out because it helps me almost every day in the work that I do, which is that decisions are important, but when and how you implement them is equally important. And the problem is that we sometimes look at results and think that that is the problem. The outcome is the problem, whereas the problem actually is somewhere else.
Renowned journalist Shekhar Gupta, while speaking as a guest speaker, expressed the fact that the country has never really had national tribal leaders, since most end up being leaders of their own tribe and not of tribal communities, speaking for the tribal cause, tribal point of view across the country. There have been very few like that, and Purno A Sangma had risen to that stature, and he was rising in that particular stature, added Shekhar Gupta.
Attire, there we have for you Gupta ji in our traditional jacket. And may I request the family members of late P A Sangma sir to...
One regret is that I was the Indian Express correspondent in the Northeast between 1981 to 83. I was based in Shillong because Shillong was then like the capital of the Northeast. So I was based in Shillong and I traveled all over the Northeast. But I traveled almost nowhere in Meghalaya. And even in Meghalaya, except going as a tourist to Cherrapunji or a couple of other places, and also in Meghalaya, never came to Garo Hills and never came to Tura. And what was the reason? The reason was, one, there was no trouble in Meghalaya, because there was trouble in Nagaland, there was trouble in Mizoram, there was trouble in Tripura, there was trouble in Assam at that point, big trouble. Assam had the big movement on, oil was blockaded. There was always something interesting going on in Arunachal, because Arunachal was a work in progress as a unit of the federation. But Meghalaya was so calm. It was much too calm for a journalist. So I was very happy to be in Shillong, didn't travel. And so this is a box I had to check on my CV, that I've been to Garo Hills and Tura. But that's a minor thing. The more important thing is the affection for Purno A Sangma and his family. So as I mentioned to you, if I came to work in the Northeast at Shillong in 1981, Purno A Sangma was a very young man. He was a very young man. Captain Williamson Sangma was then the giant of Garo leaders. It was the Williamson Sangma, Bibi Lingdo, that era. I mean, if you want to connect with that era, I think at that point in 1981, James was about 5, Conrad was about 3, and Agatha, you were just over 1 year old. So just about exactly 1.5 years after you were born, our first child was born in Shillong, our daughter. So she was born in Shillong. So it was that far back. There is also a bunch of other regrets. And one of which is that Purno A Sangma, one, he left too early. He left too early. He'd be 76 now, which means really left early. He had a lot left to do, because India has 8% of India is tribal, which means India has by far the largest tribal community in the world. 8% means nearly 11 crore, 10 crore tribals. But tribals, by their very definition, because each tribe is distinctive, there are many tribes. There are many tribes. There are tribes in the Northeast. There are tribes in larger tribal population in East Central India, that is Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, and then there are tribal communities in other parts of the country. We've never really had national tribal leaders, because usually tribal leaders end up being leaders of their own tribes. They don't become leaders of the tribal community, speaking for the tribal cause, tribal point of view across the country. There have been very few like that. And Purno A Sangma had risen to that stature, and he was rising in that stature.